All right. So I gave a little bit of an introduction. Just let me give a little bit more before we just jump right in here. I am originally from California, Los Angeles, and I used to be a teacher in LA. I used to teach social sciences. I started in 2008, and the economic recession hit in the US, and the US prioritizes not education. And so we had a series of budget cuts, and it affected educators, and I was one of them. I was laid off every single year that I was teaching in my 4-year career in LA. And then I was really tired of it. I quit my job. I traveled for a year, and then I realized and learned that Nagoya and Los Angeles are sister cities. And so I applied for a job at for an exchange program, and I got in, and I've been in Japan ever since that point. And yeah, like I said earlier, last year I started my PhD, and with an interest in learning about return migration, and specifically, people like you, Viet Kius, second generation born outside of Vietnam, returning back, and the reasons for return. And I think that you, from the video that you sent, it really seems like you've been thinking about the issue. So I'm curious to hear how far along and how developed you are in your own process. And yeah, before I even continue even further, is it okay if I record our conversation, which is already recording, by the way?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then any information, personal information that you give, I will not be using. It will be all strictly confidential. Of course, you are probably going to do something with this video anyways, but I have to say this for my own research. And I may or may not use some of the information that you offer, and it may or may not be published.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So is it all right if we jump in, and then we can, of course, develop our conversation and, talk more and build more. I just don't want to color your responses at all.
Let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Could you tell me how you got to Vietnam? Like, what do you do there now, actually?
So first off, I was born and raised in Australia, lived there all my life,
Mm.
30 plus years. And then I was an engineer for 10 years, and I hated the corporate world towards the end, and I saved up a bit of money. And as cliche as it is, I always had this calling inside to go live in the motherland. I've been to Vietnam a couple of times before on holidays, but
Mm.
like short stints, 2 4 weeks, sometimes, most of the times with my parents, family.
Mm.
And I've only been here once by myself. And that was a couple of years before I decided to move here. But once I was here, I just loved it. I fell in love with Vietnam. It being, growing up in Australia, it's and looking Asian, like you always feel misplaced. So after 10 years in working as an engineer, I had enough of the corporate world, and I wanted a change. And so saved up a bit of money and decided my initial plan was to move to Vietnam for 1 year, just
Mm.
live here, just have fun, just enjoy myself, work on my passion projects, which
Mm.
one of them is my YouTube channel. So grow my YouTube channel. And once I got here, like the first year was incredible. I was just experiencing everything new, something new every day, experiencing the motherland, meeting new people, and then got to a point where my YouTube channel was growing. So I was really happy I was working on my passions, and then
Mm.
got to a point towards the end of the year where I felt I just wanted to continue staying on. And
Mm.
now I'm a year and a half. I'm under 2 years now into my stay here, and now I don't know when I'm going to be going back home. Like Vietnam at the moment is my home, and I just
Mm.
love it here. So I'm just taking it day by day. I'm running out of money, but I'm finding ways to make money from my passions, which is
Mm.
my YouTube channel, and I love being in Vietnam. So after spending 30 years in Australia, I'm spending at least, it seems like at least a couple of years. Like at the moment, it's indefinite, but I I I love both homelands. I love Australia and I love Vietnam.
Mm.
And at the moment, I'm really enjoying my time in Vietnam. So
Mm.
that's where I am now. So
Yeah, yeah. What was life like growing up in Melbourne for you?
yeah, so I guess it's similar background to you. If I'm going to be in America, like it's very a white dominated country, and
Mm.
Asians are like a minority, and then you like not of course like Americans, Australians, not everyone's racist, but unfortunately you do on occasion you do experience racism, and it's like people aren't used to a different culture, and some people are a lot better than others. Obviously, I wouldn't say Australia is a racist country, but unfortunately, you do meet some people where they just have their own view of the world, and especially as kids, kids can be pretty rough growing up. So, but and speaking to other Viet Kius, I've been very lucky where I went to like primary school, high school, university, where there have been a lot of Asians around. I've heard people who've grown up in remote areas where they're the only Asian, or there's only a handful of Asians, which I never have a problem with growing up. I've always been around like Asians, so that was helpful for me. But growing up, I have had some run-ins, like unfortunately, with racism. But for the most part, like I love Australia, and I still do, and it's one of the best experiences I've had. Like just seeing my parents struggle with like where they had to leave the homeland to go to a completely different new country, similar to your parents, and for them to start from scratch in a new country, it's amazing. And when I was young, I didn't realize, I only eventually started slowly realize like how hard my parents worked to get us where we are. And I feel fortunate growing up in Australia. I mean, Australia has provided so much for me, but now I want to spend some time in the motherland, and I don't know when I'll go back to Australia, but for now, yeah, Vietnam is my homeland, my motherland at the moment. But Australia, like, I think similar to you in America, like you do feel out of place, and hence one of the reasons why I want to come and like experience Vietnam for some time. Like looking Asian, being Asian, having different culture to what Australia is. There were some clashes sometime with there was being a white dominant country. So hence why I want to come back to people who look like me, and have like a culture I can relate to. But now it's a hybrid. I view myself as a hybrid as an individual. So I embrace my Australian and Vietnam cultures.
How would you describe your culture growing up in Melbourne?
Yeah, it's always one where you're trying to fit in. Like, you always want to try and fit in like white Australia, but then like you're Asian, you look Asian, you talk Asian. You eat different foods. You speak differently. But you always trying best to try and to fit in with the Australian way, which over the years Australia's just become more of a melting pot of cultures. But then there's always a small minority, of individuals who are resistant to that change. They don't want things to melt together. But it's I think you got to be fortunate enough to be around the right people, who care for you, who don't care like what you look like, your skin color. And I think that's for the majority of the people, that's the Australian way. Just embrace everyone, just to care for everyone. And the Australian culture is it's so dynamic now. It's so many people, so many different cultures are adding to like what Australia is, and I love that about Australia. Yeah. So Australia embraces so many different religions and different cultures, nationalities. So yeah, it's hard to say like what exactly the one Australian culture is. It's so many different things at the moment.
Yeah, you were speaking about fitting in. Can you give me an example of your experiences fitting in?
Yeah, it's I guess even like just one example is it's sports, because one of the national sports is the AFL, the Australian Football League, but which is you wouldn't see many minorities playing that sport growing up just because it's so dominant, white dominant sport. But you would give it a go, but then you just because you're not used to the game. First off, you're not having grown up with it, but it's you would do your best, but I don't know how else to describe our place where like as a youngster where we all have our insecurities, especially as a kid, and knowing that the way you look just doesn't fit into the rest of the minority. That's as a kid, that you know, like, of course now we learn to embrace our insecurities. We learn to embrace our as an individual who we are. But as a kid, you just want to be the same as everyone else. You just want, you know, a fair go. But I guess they're playing sports and looking different, and they're not being chosen for a team. Maybe you're chosen last time just because you look different. Having a stereotype that might, you know, because you're different, you might not be good at something. So that kind of thing of fitting in. So you just want to give it a go. Have a fair chance with everyone else, but because of the way you look, you're not. People doubt you, or people have a stereotype of you. So just fitting in that sense, just, you know, just wanting to be able to play with everyone and on the same level. But people look at you differently because they, you know, you don't fit, you know, the mold of like a white Australia as such. So
Could you share with me maybe some discrimination that you faced, or a discrimination that affected you?
So like, I think it's fortunate enough for me. I was always a bit weird, and I still am a bit weird, especially as a kid. Like, I was able to shrug off things real easily. I don't know why. Like, I had really had thick skin when I was a kid. I don't know where I learned it from, but maybe I didn't understand it. I didn't understand racism when I was growing up, but I shrugged things off a lot. But I felt it. I definitely knew it was there. Just so one example I remember, and like, because I went with friends, and like we joke about it now a lot, but like we went to like a remote town in Australia, and then like there you have much more of like a minority mentality, not just like people, but the people there have like much more of that majority, not minority, but a majority mentality where, you know, they only want this town to remain white. You know, like, it's not like the big cities where it's much more of a melting pot. But and then just there, like we were just going to the bakery with friends of us, and like, well, mostly like Asians, and you just hear on the street where a man passing by will just make a comment about like a racist comment that we were Chinese, where none of us were Chinese at all. But it's like, you just hear it. It's open on the street. Of course, not everyone in the town, but just one individual just made a comment just walking by, and like under his breath, like as if we didn't hear it, but we heard it, and we didn't do anything because you know, what do you do? It's like we were still quite young. We're not that young. We're young adults by that time, but like, you know, we heard it, and we joke about it now, but it's almost like it's accepted that if you go to smaller towns, that more racist incidents can happen. And like, even to this day, I don't know, like, should we have approached them, like, not confrontational, but some do it like in some sarcastic manner, like respond to them. But like, you know, it's when you get like when you get hit by a racist remark, like, even to this day, I don't know how you respond to it. It's depending on the remark, I guess, you know, warrants a different response. But it's can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all good. Could you give me maybe specific remarks or slurs that you mentioned that you got?
Yeah, sure. So in that remark was he was walking his dog, and then he looks at us, like the Asian one. There's one non-Asian in the group, but then he said, basically said, like, bloody chinks, like, don't eat my dog. Yeah, like under his breath. Yeah. So like I still remember that incident to this day. And then like even with our friends, like I said, we joke about it now. Like you know, we can't believe that happened, but yeah, it
How old were you at that time?
Well, probably in our late 20s, I would say, like probably 25 to 30 in that range. So we'll growing. Yeah, we weren't even. Yeah, but but it was it was, when it happened, like, it happened so fast, and it was unbelievable that it was still happening in Australia. But it was almost like we got a sense, because we were in that small town. We knew, like, because you hear about these things in Australia, like in the big cities, it happens, but not as much. But in the small towns, like, you get a sense, you know, you can almost feel in the air that something, like, is more likely to happen. Something like that is more likely to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were growing up in Australia, how did you identify yourself?
So like I had times where like I love Australia, and then sometimes I had where I hated being Australian, times where I hated being Asian, times I love being Asian. So I had that clash of identity growing up. Um, like there's just times where like I hated the Asian side of me, like I wanted to be white. There's times where like I hated the white Australia and I wanted to just embrace Asia. Like I think like we all have growing up, we have the identity crisis, I suppose. But then I guess having that inner battle, I guess never having that resolved, and slowly growing up, becoming an adult, you always have that internal battles. But then I don't know when, but it just got to a point where I just embraced both Australia and Vietnam, the Asian side. I as I was growing up as a young adult, I did a lot of self development, so that really helped myself. I looked like I did a lot of looking inwards, and that really helped my identity. So it got to a point where I happily embraced both my cultures. And then, like I said to you, having been born and been raised 30 years in Australia, it got to a point where I want to experience Vietnam and see what that's like, see the other side of my culture. So even now, like I'm a I say to people, I'm Australian-born Vietnamese, or I'm an Aussie Vietnamese. So I embrace both cultures, and I love that now. So I love the Asian inside of me. I love the Australian inside of me, and I think that for me has been the best way for me to not to deal with, but to that's been the best way for me to help my identity. Is just embrace both sides of the cultures. And I can't explain to you how I got to that point, but after looking a lot of inwards, I saw all the difficult moments like with racism growing up. But then I know that's not everyone in Australia, and I know that for me, like I can't hide I'm Asian. My skin's different in a white dominant country. It's like so I didn't want to like hide away. I didn't, I wanted to embrace like being Vietnamese in Australia, and so the best way for me to do that was embrace both cultures as fully as I can, as I could. So that's been the biggest help for my identity, was to embrace both cultures.
Yeah. How would you say that the Australian culture saw you? You were mentioning that you had times where you identified as white and Asian, and then how do you think the dominant culture saw you?
I would say just on face value, like or just on paper, they see that you're different. Your skin color is different. You're not white, so it's you're different to begin with. Like you're not what the majority is. So some people, depending on where they are in their lives, accept and embrace that a lot better. They don't care. They don't care. Like we're all human beings, and that's how I see the world as well. It doesn't matter what skin color you are, like which patch of land you're from. We're all human beings, but other people will see that you're not white, and they'll treat you differently. So it's that kind of thing. But the majority of Australians, I would say the culture is that we're all in this together. We want to make Australia the best place it is. Like all people. I would say that's what the Australian culture is, and that's what you would want for all cultures anyway. So like when my parents came over, there was a lot of resistance to refugees, immigrants coming over. But in my opinion, eventually they saw some of the immigrants, refugees, a lot of them, the ones that came over were the most hardest working people in Australian history. And they did that because they saw that Australia gave them an opportunity and they didn't want to waste it. And they wanted to work hard for themselves, their family, but they also wanted to work hard for Australia, because Australia was this land that gave them this new life. And my opinion is that a lot of Australians, they see that, and I've talked to a couple, some, and they remember when the refugees came over from Greece, from Asia, from like Europe, and a lot of Italians, Greeks, and a lot of the Vietnamese, the Chinese, they came over, and a lot of people were resistant, they were hesitant because it was something new. But then eventually, over time, they saw how hard the refugees, immigrants worked, and then they really embraced that. And that's in the Australian history now, that all these refugees come over and just working so hard to make Australia better. And a lot of my opinion is that a lot of the majority of Australians recognize that as a culture. Like we're all hardworking people.
Were there any events or series of events in Australia that motivated your move to Vietnam, you think?
Probably the biggest one was like working 10 years in the corporate world, and after the 10 years mark, and I was about 30 years old. I think those two in combination, I said to myself, like, I wanted to change. Like, I knew I didn't want to continue being in the corporate world for the rest of my life. I could change jobs, but I knew I hated it. I did not want to do this anymore. So, and 30 years old, so I've lived in Australia all my life. So for one, I knew I needed a career change. So my YouTube has always been a passion, and I know there's ways to make money from YouTube. And if I can make money from my passions, then that's my dream. So I knew I wanted to pursue something else. And I knew that I wanted to come to Vietnam to experience the motherland. So that combination, that's what led me to Vietnam. And that's what left me to leave Australia. A change of career and being in Australia for 30 years. That's what made me say to myself, let's go to Vietnam and let's do a career change. Yeah.
Why Vietnam specifically? I mean, you have a lot of other options. Why Vietnam?
Yeah, even Japan was on my cards. Japan, South Korea. I want to go even like Canada or Asia. I wanted to go to so many other countries, but I guess the main one was like my parents are Vietnamese. I'm Vietnamese, so it's cliche as it is. I had this feeling, I had this calling inside of me, like, to come to the motherland. It just felt right. Like, I can't explain it. Something said to me, like, go and live in the motherland. Yeah.
When you made the decision to move, what were some of the reactions of important people in your life? Could you share with me one or two reactions that you got?
Yeah, all my friends are cool. All my friends, like, they care for me. They love me. So they were happy for me that I was making this big move. My parents, like, unsurprisingly, they were hesitant at the start, but at that point in my life, like, I've become a much better communicator. So I know I realize that that's like so important. Because I'm not super close to my parents, but now that I'm much older, I have grown much more closer because I know I've become much more of a better communicator with them. And so I'd been thinking for so long on how I was going to come out and say to them, like, hey, I'm quitting my job, I'm going to Vietnam. So their reaction was they're very surprised, but at the start, and that was expected, but it was the way I explained to them, it's the way I communicated to them. Like, I said to them, like, I'm not being influenced by anyone. Like, this is what I really want to do. And I thought it was going to take them weeks or even months to accept it, but only in a couple of days, my parents came around, and they knew that this was something that I wanted to do for myself. Of course, my parents still had this, the fears. Like, so a lot of parents had the fears of petty crime, pickpocketing, safety, stuff like that, which is understandable. And so, they kept warning about that, and I kept reassuring them that I knew. But what was surprising for me that they came around in just a couple of days, which I expected them to it would take a lot longer. But it was because I communicated to them in a way where I expressed myself that this was something that I really want to do, and they understood that, and they felt that they trusted me as a son, and they felt that they wanted me to do what I wanted to do, and they trusted that I knew what I wanted to do for myself, and so I was really happy. I was really happy that I was able to communicate with them, and they understood. Because the last thing I wanted was for my parents to fight me on it. I didn't want to come over here and have arguments with my parents. I didn't want them to resist. So the communication when I approached them was like so key for me. So that was in my mind for weeks, months before I had that conversation with them. So I knew I had to get it right the first time, and I'm just very thankful that it worked out.
Yeah. So would you say that the majority of their hesitations was centered around that kind of petty crime issue, or was it something, were there other things too?
Yeah. So I'm fortunate that my parents have come back to Vietnam many times on holidays, but I'm sure you've heard of other people, our parents who've never come back to Vietnam after they left, because there's still a lot of trauma for a lot of people. And I think that trauma is something that we as the next generation, we will never be able to understand. Like, how do you leave your country so young, and the circumstances that which they left, we've never experienced something like that in our lives. And then but I'm fortunate that my parents they still love Vietnam, and they come back on holidays, and so they have a healthy relationship with Vietnam. But I'm sure other people whose their parents have never come back because it's still too traumatic for them. But yeah, my parents they were most concerned about the petty crime, and just the different government here, the communism as opposed to a democratic countries. So they were concerned about that. But I understood Vietnam. There's a lot of there's much more restrictions on what you can and can't do. So I understood these things, and I reassured them that I understood how things worked in Vietnam as opposed to a democratic country. So those were the main concerns, the way the government works and just the petty crime. But I reassured them that I understand these things. So then once I confirmed and I reassured them, once they knew that I knew, then it was all good.
Yeah. Can you describe to me, and in as much detail as you are comfortable and you remember, what the first week or the first month of moving to Vietnam was like?
Because I've been here on holidays. I'm sure you have as well. But living here, renting an apartment and all that, just speaking to locals on just logistical items, it's eye opening. You have to adapt quite quickly. But I had no issues. I loved it. There's something inside of me that said that this is right for me. This is what I wanted to do, and I just loved every moment of it. Just going on the street, just ordering food from locals, just even paying bills, renting a motorbike, renting an apartment. I loved every single part of it. It's just being around a language where you hear Vietnamese everywhere. Back home, you only speak Vietnamese to certain groups of people, but here you get thrown into it. And my Vietnamese is good. It can I want it to be better, but I understood the language, and that really was very, very helpful for me. But I was just so happy that I quit my job. It's doing something new, and then for me, I loved every single moment of it. There's nothing I didn't really encounter anything bad. Vietnamese are known to be hustlers, but then you also can, for foreigners, you can also get hustled. So I'm sure I got hustled a few times here, but that's all good. From just getting here, because it was a new world, a new change for me. I loved every single moment of it. Just being around the language, the culture, and just being in the motherland. I was just so happy being here. So yeah.
What about in the first week and month, keeping in touch with people from home?
Yeah, that was cool. Just because when you do a change, most people back home they just keep doing the same thing. They're on to their normal lives. So yeah, just letting people know what's up. And you hear people who are envious of you, but I keep saying to everyone, anyone can do what I'm doing. You have to make the change for yourself. And I hear some people say that I inspire them, that I'm doing my own thing, and which is cool. And But I keep saying to them that you can always do this for yourself, but it's like it's that fear that's stopping people like just doing their own thing. Like for me, I knew that I didn't want to continue working for someone else for the rest of my life. I knew that I just had to do my own thing, like my own way, like on my own terms. And I keep saying that to people, but people, whenever I call back home, people are doing very much like similar to what they're doing. So, and I'm living the life the way I want it to be lived. So it's like you try, it's because there's something always new happening for me at the moment. So I try not to make people too envious, but it's like I love the life I'm living. I'm living on my own terms, and I hope more people do it, because like a lot of people they keep doing their own thing because maybe change is too big for them. But like for me, I love change. I embraced it. Like I knew I needed that in my life. So yeah, it's
What were or where were some of the spaces, either physical or not physical, that you felt connected with, or that you started to spend time in when you first arrived?
Yeah. So just being like cafes, like cafes here on a different level. Just yeah, it's so cool. Yeah. They really go all out in their spaces. But just being around cafe, just being around people who look like me. I mean, I said it. I mentioned in the video that you saw that like being around people that look like me. But once you start talking, even when people look at you, they can know that some people know that you might be a foreigner. That I know that I'm not a local, and when I start speaking, they know I'm not a local. But just hanging around cafes, just being friends, going to house parties, yeah, that's where I've been at these days. Yeah, just being meeting people at cafes or just going out to house parties.
Yeah. How do you connect with people in Vietnam or elsewhere? How do you make friends?
Yeah, so I go to the gym here, so meeting people at the gym, and then there's locals and foreigners, so you get to know them, making friends from them, and then just in Facebook groups. I'm in a number of different Facebook groups on like expats and like some creative groups as well, which has a different background of people, and then from there just like putting myself out there. Like I as I've grown up, I've become much more introverted, but like especially as a YouTuber, I need to have a network. So I just put myself there on Facebook groups, or I meet people at the gym, cafes, or friends of friends. Yeah.
And what do you think it takes to be accepted in Vietnamese society?
Accepted in what sense? Like,
Accepted, like being a part of the society.
because I guess like just on a surface level, like because you're not a local, so like you can't call yourself a fully local, and so like I'm in a lot of big the Viet Kieu groups here. So there's a lot of different groups, a lot of number of us. Like we stick together. But the thing is, for me, I I love hanging around with locals. I love hanging around with Viet Kieux. I love hanging around with non-Vietnamese. But in terms of the Vietnamese culture, like I don't know. It's I just being in Vietnam, I try and embrace Vietnam as much as I can, and also try to bring a bit of Australia over as well. And so I just obviously the people here know I'm not local. They know like I'm a foreigner, but they know I have a Vietnamese heritage, and people accept me for that. But the Vietnamese culture, they accept foreigners as well. But of course, in Asia, like and just the representation, like for me, like I I want to carry the Vietnamese, a bit proud of Vietnamese. I'm embracing it here, I guess, and people see that like I'm an overseas Vietnamese, but I love Vietnam, and so I hopefully that they see that I'm embracing Vietnam, like even though I've lived overseas all my life. So I guess that's the best way. Yeah, that's my best answer.
From what you've just described, would you say that you're a part of Vietnamese society?
I definitely, that's what I want. It's like I because like you're living here, you're eating, sleeping here. Like yeah, I'm a part of Vietnam, and Vietnam's a part of me. Like it's like my parents are Vietnamese. Like I have like Vietnamese blood in me. So it's I I'm doing my best, especially for my YouTube channel. Like I am like one of my one of the missions, the purpose of my channel is to showcase Vietnam to the rest of the world, especially to Australia. Like I know a lot of Australian Vietnamese who've never been, like our generation have never been back to Vietnam because they had this fear-based, they had this stereotype of Vietnam, or their parents have influenced them in a way, or they just have this stigma about Vietnam, and like maybe their parents have never been back, or they've never been back themselves to Vietnam. And so that's what I'm trying to do on my channel, to show Vietnam in a positive light, show them that it's Vietnam isn't what they think it is, and they should come back to Vietnam. So that's one of the things I'm trying to do while I'm living here, is like I'm embracing Vietnam, and I'm trying to express that back to Australian Vietnamese who have never been back to Vietnam.
Could you tell me about one connection that you have with a Vietnamese local? Like, what does it look like?
It's I think it just like where I am in my own self-development. Like for me, like I've got to a point where, of course, I love Vietnam and I love being the locals because I feel more of, I guess, Vietnamese. But I've got to a point where we're just all human beings. So we're just we're all in this together. So I view all connections as human beings. I've tried to remove the just color from everything, but of course,
if you think about one specific local that you could think of in your mind, like the first one that pops to your mind, your connection with
just a connection, just a language. Like I'm learning much more slang and being able to banter Vietnamese, like with locals. I love that. So like I love bantering in English with my Aussie friends and like international friends, but being I love like learning and start to banter with my local friends. That's what I really love doing. That, and you get a sense of camaraderie. You have a sense of belonging once you're able to banter. Like banter just brings people together. Being able to shit talk and just mess around, but being able to just do that in a local language, it just elevates the connection. So
Can you think about like one specific example, one person that you're thinking of? You don't need to say their name, but like who they are in your life.
Yeah, just people in the gym. Or people like who just friends I know. Yeah, it's just like when you're talking, like you're quite you're civilized, but then to get to the next level of connection, especially the local Vietnamese, just to understand what they're saying and just banter back, even if you're swearing or using slang. Like, I love that connection, and that just makes the connection stronger between you and them. Being able to just mess around, shit talk in that language, in the local language. It's just it's fun.
Nice. What about a connection that you have with a Viet Kieu? Can you name one specific connection?
Right now, like I have, I'll use John because we both know John, but he's one of the first Viet Kius that I met here, and we met we were going for a motorcycle license, and then we met there, and from him, like I've been to his house parties, I've met so many people from him, but we just understood each other. Like we are Viet Kius, we were born in other countries, and we came back to Vietnam. We had a calling to come back to Vietnam, and we just connected on that level. That we understood each other straight away, like why we came back to Vietnam. And so I have a deep connection with John. He's one of the first people I met here, and our connection, it was so easy, it was so natural because like we had a very similar story, and we had this calling to come back to Vietnam. So.
Would you say that kind of connection with Viet Kius is typical?
For most people, I would say so. Like some people just come here and they leave because they just want a holiday. But a lot of people I've been meeting they say with me, they come here for 1 year. They say they're only here for 1 year, and then they stay here indefinitely. Like I'm at the stage where I'm approaching 2 years, and like I don't know when I'm going back to Australia. Like I just love it so much. Like I'm turned into like I'm indefinite as well. And a lot of people have come here. They set up businesses. They're making lives here. They've got married here. But yeah, I would say so. Yeah, a lot of big girls here. Like Vietnam has changed them, and they're making and they're settling down. They're making their lives in Vietnam, and that's a lot of big girls that they're meeting. Not everyone. Like everyone's like indefinite. They're not sure if they're gonna get married. They're gonna live here forever. But similar to me, they're indefinite. Yeah, Vietnam has changed us.
What do you think it means to be Vietnamese?
The local Vietnamese in terms of Viet Kieus or
no, I'm just in general. Like if someone were to ask you, hey, what does it mean to be Vietnamese? How would you answer that question?
Damn. Well, first off, like it's how to be Vietnamese is I just am Vietnamese. Like I just am Australian. Like I come from two different patches of land, and I embrace both cultures. So like how would you explain being Vietnamese? Like I love being Vietnamese. I love being Australian. I love everything about Vietnam. So that would be my first initial response. Like I don't know how else to go into detail about that. Yeah, like what would you say if someone asks you?
I'll answer after. It's just because I don't want to color your response. I'm just
it's a good question. It's just obviously like I look Vietnamese. My parents are Vietnamese. And right now I'm living in Vietnam, so it's like how would I explain? Like if you ask me how would I explain to be Australian, it's like I seriously got to a point in my life where like I embrace cultures, I embrace identities, but like I've got to a point where like we're just all human beings. Like we're all in this together. Doesn't matter where we are in the world, where we're born. Like, we're all on the same earth together. So regardless of skin color, which patch of land you were born in, we're all human beings. I guess that's more like a philosophical like answer, but it's I can't like I'm just a human being, man. Yeah, like I'm Vietnamese, I'm Australian, but above all else, I'm just a human being. That's my answer to that. That's where I am at the moment in my thinking. Like I've almost dissolved like borders, skin color. I've like almost like dissolved all of that. It's just because like I guess I've been influenced by a lot of different people, but in like in development sense. But I'm just a human being. We're all human beings on this planet. That's why I say it.
Okay, all right. In Vietnam right now, could you walk me through a typical day and the types of media that you use and what you use it for? Yeah. So what types of media you use in a day?
So typical day, I'm doing a lot of work on my YouTube channel and other ventures. But my main media I use is Facebook and Instagram, where Facebook is a lot more. And I don't watch TV. I don't watch news. I watch YouTube a lot. So my main ones would be Facebook and YouTube. On YouTube, I follow a lot of Vietnamese vloggers, influencers, but I haven't watched a lot of their content yet. But I'm starting to like swap over. I want to embrace a lot more of the content. But on Facebook, I'm a lot on Vietnamese expat groups. A lot of my friends are posting obviously a lot of Vietnamese content. So I consume a lot of content from Facebook and YouTube. Yeah. That's my main sources.
You mentioned earlier like being a part of like Viet Kieu groups. I'm curious about what your goal of joining the Viet Kieu groups is or are.
I guess the first one, like on the surface, is a sense of connection because like, obviously you're not local, and so being a Viet Kieu, connecting with other people who are born outside of Vietnam, come back. I mean, that's the first connection that you want, and then it's relatable, and it's having that. someone that's relatable to
Mm.
another Viet Kieu. Yeah, that's the first connection that you want. That's why I'm in so many of these groups. Yeah.
Yeah. And how often would you say that you physically would meet one another?
At least once a week, if not more. So yeah,
Mm.
we have a lot of things going, a lot of activities going, but we're always talking, always chatting on Messenger and whatnot. But at least once a week. Yeah, sometimes a lot more.
Yeah. How would you say the people in Vietnam, the people that you connect with, the people that you hang out with, how would you say that they identify themselves?
Identify in what sense?
Like how I asked you, like, hey, what's your identity? How would you identify? Or that kind of that typical question. How would you say that they would answer that?
I guess like for the Viet Kieux, a lot of them have embraced both cultures, and then and if they're locals, then of course they're Vietnamese, but then some local Vietnamese, they want to go experience stuff outside of Vietnam. And similar to me, I was born outside of Vietnam, and I want to experience Vietnam. So from an identity standpoint, like the people I've met here, we all embrace Vietnam in our own way. Like we all see Vietnam differently. I guess the way we've been influenced from my parents or the way we've been influenced by media, we all have a different interpretation of Vietnam. But for everyone, I know like everyone has like a positive view of Vietnam. But then that varies like from person to person. But I couldn't give you an exact answer on how people view the identity. But I guess being in Vietnam, doesn't matter if you're local, international, or you're Viet Kieu, like everyone has embraced Vietnam in their own way, and that comes off somehow in the identity. I'm not sure how to explain it, but yeah.
Would you say that the people that you hang out with mostly are locals or Viet Kieu or other?
I would say at the moment it's I'm trying to do these numbers in my head. It's probably like 60% Viet Kieux, 40% locals, and like 60% Viet Kieux, 30% locals, and 10% others.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the time that you've been in Vietnam, have you considered dating or romance?
Yeah, that's been a consideration. Yeah, it's happened.
Yeah. How do you meet people when you're considering dating or romance? Could you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, there's certain applications you can use, or there's like I like mutual introductions. Yeah, those are the best, like friends of friends.
Yeah.
But those are the two main sources. Or like I'm not because I consider myself like a quiet, shy guy. So I'm not really like good at cold approaching people like at cafes on the street. I don't really do that. So like friend introductions or like certain applications you can use to meet people.
I like your vagueness.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to share with you a whole bunch of other stories after we're finished. But,
yeah, sure.
How about like dating and romance among like the online groups that you're a part of, namely the Viet Kieu groups or other groups that you are part of? Does that happen?
Oh, you mean like dating in like those circles?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like, I'm sure it happens, but like but then like I guess if any circle, it's not just like special this one, but if you're starting to date someone in the circle and then like if there's love and romance, you get married, it's all good. But then if if a breakup happens in the circle, the awkwardness. So like that doesn't like necessarily like stop me from dating those circles, but it's like I haven't met someone that's taken to where I want to date to the level. So but there's not but I'm sure people are dating in these circles. Yeah.
When you're looking for dating a romance in Vietnam, who do you look for? Do you look for a local? Do you look for Viet Kieu, other?
Yeah, so I guess like when I first got here, like my I guess first on top of my list was like ideally it would be a Viet Kieu. Viet Kieu would be like because we can relate to each other like much more. But then but then slowly it got to a point where like I'm open to just this like just breaking those boundaries. Doesn't matter if it's local or Viet Kieu or what's that. It's more about the person, the individual. So of course, being a Viet Kieu or local, you can have that connection, that the relatability of being Vietnamese. But I'm just open to like the individual now. So yeah, rather than just like having orders on dating in that sense.
Yeah. What other ways do you use technology to connect with people either in Vietnam or outside of Vietnam? Like what apps do you use to communicate?
So like, just texting, just messenger, like, or even like just Zoom or just video calls. Like I did a very similar interview of someone back home, just during COVID, but just using technology. Just the video and texting, technology these days like has come such a long way. I mean, if you want to do something, there's like having these boundaries, these borders, like even during COVID times, it just technology can overcome that. If you have an idea, you can. I've made YouTube videos of people from back home, just from a Zoom meeting. It's doable. Like technology can overcome a lot of barriers, a lot of situations that we're in at the moment. So I love technology. Yeah. Well, but when it's working, technology is incredible. But sometimes you do have IT issues. But when technology is working, it's awesome.
Yeah. So besides Messenger, you're saying Zoom as well. What other apps do you use to communicate with people inside or outside of Vietnam?
Those would be the main ones, like social media, Facebook, Instagram. But YouTube, like my channel is my main one. I use like on my YouTube channel. I guess all my in terms of my social media, my YouTube that reaches the worldwide audience. Like anyone can watch my videos, and I love that about technology, about YouTube. And so I really embrace YouTube. Like that's my main media that I use to connect with the world, and the world. Anyone in the world can watch my videos. I love that about YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, how do you think your experience moving to Vietnam would be different without the technology, the platforms that you named, Facebook, Instagram, and anything else that you are using and were using?
So one app I didn't mention was like they got the you've heard of Grab and Now. So so Grab is like Grab is freaking incredible. Like if living here, if I didn't have Grab, it would make life a lot more difficult. But Grab has been incredible because on Grab you can order food, you can top up your mobile phone, you can travel, you can rent bikes to drive you around. It's that app is absolutely incredible. You can do so much for on it. If I was to move to Vietnam a few years before when the app wasn't around, it would make life a lot more difficult. Basically, you can do everything on the app, and it's just so easy, so convenient now. So that technology has been incredible, and like those apps in Asia, I mean, it's incredible now that what the things you can do on it, and just makes life so much easier. So, and this whole part of technology, so apps like that, social media apps, being able to connect back home so easily and just show them what I'm doing, just see what people are doing back home. Like technology has come such a long way, and it's like Vietnam and like some in some like Southeast Asian countries are still coming up. They're not like as developed as the other Western countries, but with these technologies, with these apps, like these apps, like say Grab for example, they allow like just people who have motorcycles to earn a living. And it's incredible. It's lifted a lot of people out of poverty. Just like being able to use an app on your phone and be able to like get a job from that. It's been incredible. So it's something that I've been very interested in, like the way that's been able to happen. That technology has been able to lift a lot of people out of poverty in Vietnam, and that's incredible.
Yeah.
So it makes life a lot easier now living here with like apps like this.
Yeah. Could you imagine what life would be like for you moving here? You said 2 years ago, right? What it would be like
before these apps.
Yeah.
It would be a very different experience, I reckon. It'll be you can still get by, but it wouldn't be as easy. It wouldn't be as convenient. It'll be a bit more difficult. But having these apps is, man, it's so much more easy and convenient, especially being a foreigner. And these apps sometimes have English, sometimes they don't, but you can always like translate it yourself. But having these apps in Vietnamese and English, it's been it's makes things much more comfortable.
Willis, thank you so much for answering my questions.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, at this point, do you have questions for me? And of course, we can continue the conversation now. This is just the end of my grilling you, that's all.
Sure, no. Thanks for having me. It's a really enjoyable interview. I guess a couple of questions back to you. How do you view your identity, and have you wanted to live in Vietnam for a year or indefinite? Have you lived in Vietnam for a long period of time, and how do you view yourself as being a Viet Kieu?
The backbone of my research, the reason why I'm doing it is because I've always struggled with the idea of identity. I think similar to you, just growing up, and then the video that you shared too, the feeling of having a foot in America and feeling like American, and then turning on the TV and then feeling like, but I want to be like them, like on TV, the white people that I see on TV, or getting a question from people like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from here. I'm from up the street right there. And they're like, no, really, like, where are you from? And that kind of question making me really think about where I belong, where do I fit in? And then I think similar to you, just feeling a feeling of shame around being Vietnamese. I don't know if you named that specifically, but I just grew up feeling shameful of being Vietnamese. I mean, my parents, I can still remember the moment where I was like, I don't want to be Vietnamese, because my parents would take me to watch these like really fucked up American Vietnamese movies. They're American movies that are made about Vietnam, right? Which is like war related movies. Like one that I'll name, it's called Heaven and Earth. It was like the most terrible movie. I think it was a Francis Coppola movie. And like my identity or my identification with Vietnamese people were like they were raping other Vietnamese women. And I was like, I don't want to be that. And also like the fobs that played cards in front of E Hall at my school. I was like, I don't want to, I'm not them. I want to be like the Chinese kids at my school, or I want to be like the Koreans at my school, or the white kids at my school. And I remember just going to Vietnam for the first time, like and thinking, oh, okay, this is where I'm gonna fit in. This is where I'm gonna find where my home is. And that was back in 2005. And I remember like one of my first memories was the Xe Ôm driver, and he was like, "Hey, foreigner, come here, Xe Ôm, Xe Ôm." And I was like, is this guy looking at me? But I'm Vietnamese. He's talking to me. And I was taken aback, because I thought that I would be able to find this sense of home and what Vietnamese was, and my identity. And one of my first days there, I get this kind of experience with the Xe Ôm driver that, shit, okay, so if I get this question in the US, like, what am I? And then in Vietnam, a local person doesn't even see me. I think one part of being accepted, I asked you that question about being accepted. I think, of course, speaking the language is a part of being accepted. And I think looking the part too is a way to be accepted. So it made me think about my own experience in connecting with the motherland. And then you had asked me about whether I wanted to live in Vietnam. And I've always thought about living in Vietnam, and thus which sparked the theme of this research. I've always thought about it, and I've gotten really close. I mean, I'm in Japan, but I haven't gotten there yet to live in Vietnam, and I do want to, and I feel like the same as you. It's just like there's a calling to me. There's something about it that makes me feel like I gotta know, I have to know a little bit more about where my parents came from. Like they always shared with me stories when I was a kid, and I really gotta know what it really is. I mean, I've traveled there for I would say like for the past I've been there maybe over a dozen times, and each time it's like about a month. So that's only a year, right? I've only been there for a year if you combine those times. But
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like I need to experience it a little bit longer. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Have your parents been back to Vietnam?
So my dad has been once, and then my mom is sick. She has a disability, and she hasn't been able to go back since she's left. So, yeah, my dad's been back once.
But do you know like I guess that's your like I know so your mom's got disability, but if do they want to come back, or do they have hesitations to coming back, or like what's their yeah view?
Yeah, I think that if my mom didn't have a disability, she would be open to coming back. I think that
Okay, yeah,
she would come back. And then my dad is her caretaker, and
yeah,
if I think he has this relationship where he's very connected to her. So
mm,
if yeah, if he has no real option to go back anymore. Yeah, to be honest, and
I see.
if she were able to walk, I think that she and him would probably go back more often, and
Okay,
that would be the case. But yeah, it doesn't. It's not like that. But yeah,
yeah,
so because my mom can't go back, she of course, like it's not even an option in her mind. So everything is negative about going back. She's like, "Don't go back." It's you had kind of named your parents' hesitation. My parents, of course, have this huge hesitation with me going back. They even to travel, they say that they hate communists and all sorts, and yeah, it's like that.
so, so you touched on a couple of things. Like how much time do you have left
Oh,
to talk?
I have a lot. I have a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Please.
oh,
Yeah.
cool, cool. So first one is like from my that video, the short film I made, Go
Hmm.
Home. You talked about something that I can relate to as well. It's like being having Asian skin in a white country, but then
Hmm.
having Asian skin in Vietnam, where they can recognize that you're still a foreigner. So it's for me like not being able to fit in Australia, not being able to fit in Vietnam, and you
Yeah.
talk about that as well.
Yeah.
Um, like for me, I got to a point where like I I know like obviously I'm Vietnamese in Australia, so I embrace that, and I know that some locals like they on the surface they can tell you're a foreigner with the overseas, even though you have Vietnamese heritage,
Mhm.
you're a foreigner as well, and I embrace that as well. So I got to a point where when someone says something at the start, their initial impressions of you like it used to like I wouldn't say cut deep, but I used to think about a lot, like similar to you, but I am Vietnamese in Vietnam, but then it got to the point where I'm in my life now, where I've accepted it and I embraced it. Like I
Mhm.
embraced it that I'm a Viet Kieu in Vietnam. I embraced I'm Vietnamese in Australia, and yeah, for me, like I'm comfortable with it now. But how about you? Can you like talk more about like your Seom, like when he's the local Seom said
Yeah.
that you are a foreigner, like you are taken back by that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how like how are your feelings now? Like how um like how like what level of like acceptance of for you personally like are you at now? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that if I can speak Vietnamese, and it's not great, but I can get by. And I think that if my Vietnamese was a bit more polished, I would feel more comfortable in Vietnam. And I think that I was speaking with John about this too, and I felt the same, like just kind of hitting the pronouns and getting the pronouns correct,
Yeah.
and just knowing my position and my ranking in
Yeah.
society, and knowing where to slot everyone in there more comfortably. I think that I would also feel like I belong. um yeah, I think there's that part of me, and then another part of me is kind of a similar feeling that I have living in Japan too. It's like questioning why did they do it like that? I don't understand. They should do it like this. And that's the American part of me that comes out and feels like that's correct, which it's not. Of course it's not, right? Every culture has its own ways of doing things. But yeah, I think that part of me of culturally American and then ethnically Vietnamese is plays a big role. I definitely would say that I'm more American culturally than I am Vietnamese, and Vietnamese happens to be just where my parents and ancestors were born and raised and grew up, and then I was like the first disconnect from there, and just trying to figure out where I can connect back to it. Yeah, it's yeah, I think I have days where I feel more Vietnamese and days where I don't feel so Vietnamese. And the acceptance part of being ashamed of it, I don't have anymore. I actually embrace being Vietnamese, but yeah, it's hard to say how much I feel like I fit into Vietnamese society. I had asked you that question, right? If you feel like you fit into Vietnamese society, I would say like well, I don't live there right now, so I would say I don't. But yeah, if I speak Vietnamese better, and if I have lived there longer, I think that I would feel more connected to it and feel more Vietnamese.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's that's still something I still like how do you like even like how do you feel more Vietnamese, or how do you like identify Vietnamese? I still can't know. I don't know. That's an interesting like question. But there's something I wanted to like get your thoughts on. All right. So this I guess is an issue where like for any refugees or immigrants, say, coming to another country, is conforming to that majority. Like for in Vietnam, this is not for everyone, but from some people are saying, and it's not more majority of the whites, where people from other countries come over, they don't conform to Vietnam, and they're living in Vietnam, and they want things done their way, like say a Western mindset, which I think is absolute bullshit. Like if you're gonna go to another country, like even for me, it's not like it's not fully conforming. You don't have to do a squat on the street. You don't have to eat pho every day. You don't have to do that kind of stuff. Like that's not. So when you talk about Vietnamese, like what does it mean to be Vietnamese? Is that or? But it's not the full conforming in that sense. But in a sense, you do have to conform to the majority culture that you go to. But I hate people like who are more. I've seen this more with the whites who come over and expect things to be done in a certain way because that's what they're used to. And I see this in Facebook chats, and like I don't know if people are trolling. I'm sure there are people just trolling and have nothing else better to do, or they're not in a good place in their life. But I see a lot of these issues from the majority of people who don't conform in a sense to the Vietnamese culture, and I hate that. Like I wouldn't like. In my opinion, there's a certain level of conforming that you should do to a majority culture that you're living in, but it still keep your identity. Like I conform to the Australian way, but I can't. Even now, I can't explain what the Australian way is. I have a sense of it, and also I conform to the Vietnamese way. But I still keep my own sense of identity. So I wanted just to talk to you, just open that up to you, and what your views are. I just hate people who come to another country and expect things to be done their way. I hate that, and that's only a small minority, very small minority of people are like that. A lot of people who come over to another country, they accept that this is the way it's done here, and maybe they're not used to it, but they embrace it, and slowly over time, it chips away at them. But what's your view on that? Like on having to conform to the majority culture that you're going to the country that you're going to.
Yeah, well, the first word that comes up when you speak about that is entitlement, right? There, I think that if if you have entitlement issues, if you are,
Privilege.
yeah,
Yeah.
privileged in your own
Yeah.
country, and you like you
Yeah.
get things that your way, and I mean, if you're naming white people as the people that are taking advantage of this situation, I am not surprised. And I mean, in Japan, I also see that issue as well. Yeah, it's annoying to see, of course, and you know, the saying goes, right, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. And
Exactly.
I mean, I think that uh, um, growing up in one place and then being flexible enough to see how another country operates, and how another country does something, I think that says and speaks volumes to someone, right? I mean, how
Mm.
flexible they are and how open they are in
It
their own
does.
thinking process. And people who
How
are
they adapt.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People who are inflexible and are unable to adapt cannot
Mm.
live and you know, have meltdowns and troll Facebook
Mm.
groups and stuff. And unfortunately, they exist. And yeah, it's really annoying to see. I definitely have seen it, and you know, I think I also experience it at times too. And I think it's an internal process for me when I do experience it. I'm like, why do Japanese people do it like this? I'm specifically thinking about school and the way that schooling is. And
Yeah.
I think I've talked about this with other Viet Kius too. It's like they've also named to me that Vietnamese school is similar, where it's more of a top-down approach rather than being able to like question everything and question the teacher, question situations that happen. And Japan is very similar. It's like you don't really question authority, you just follow. And that is to me annoying. And
Yeah.
but I just have to accept that that's the way that things are here. And if I do want to change it, then I change it in my own classroom rather than you know, telling this teacher to change their way of teaching and the whole system to change their way of teaching. But yeah, I think it happens within me, but I don't feel like I need to change the society because of it, or the society doesn't need to change and adapt to my views. Yeah, that's I think that's entitlement issues that people that come from privilege and you know are used to getting it their way, they just can't get it their way.
I agree. Yeah, very similar um, mindset as well. But it's just a very small minority that do it, and just
Mm,
it is annoying to see. It's
mm,
definitely not everyone that comes here, but yeah,
mm.
or not just here, just anywhere that when you
Yeah,
go to another country.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it just like you said, it really just demonstrate where someone is in their life. Maybe you
Mm.
know they could, yeah, just they haven't had that inner self awareness. You know, they're just they're not in a good place in their life. Like to be trolling and doing all
Yeah,
that kind of
I would
stuff.
also add too that if you come from a country that is historically dominant, whether it be militarily dominant or dominant in terms of culture, I think that people that come from those areas are probably more likely to feel a sense of entitlement rather than I'm thinking the opposite, right? Someone from Vietnam going into like Australia, I doubt that they would be like, "What the fuck this? It shouldn't be like
Yeah,
this." Yeah,
yeah,
and yeah, I think that people from more dominant countries, in you know monetarily as well, feel this sense of my country and the way that I do things is the right way, the proper way. When in fact, yeah, I'm actually surprised at times when I see the resourcefulness of Vietnamese people and how if we think about like for example global climate change or global heating or global warming, if you want to say, um, countries like Vietnam probably have a low. I know that there's statistics out there that said that Southeast Asia are like the biggest polluters, but I'll name that issue afterwards. But if you just look at how resourceful Vietnamese people are, I mean, you have a motorbike out there, and you know that when people's motorbikes break down, people don't just throw that shit out, right? Or their vacuum breaks down, they don't just throw that shit away. They bring that into the shop and they figure out, they find another piece that isn't even from the same machine, isn't even the same size, and they just stick it in and it just runs. It might be like 10 times more powerful, but it still runs. And yeah, they just figure shit out. Whereas, you know, countries like the US and Australia, we have so much privilege and disposable income that we throw shit away, and we don't even think about buying a new one of the same one, and then it just breaks again, and we just do, and we repeat the same cycle. And just going back to that, the polluting issue. There is a lot of plastic trash and pollution that comes out of Vietnam and Southeast Asia. But if you look at that trash, they've already done background, I think that's called like audits, company and corporate audits of this trash. The trash comes from major multinational corporations like Nestle, like Procter and Gamble, and they make these, like, you've probably seen them, like these one pack usages of like shampoo, and they market this to lower income, poorer countries, so that they buy them at you know, like 5 cents a pack. So of course there's going to be more trash. It's from these rich countries that come in and then try to make poor countries buy all this shit from them. So yeah, it's flawed ideas that happen. But I think that, yeah, Vietnamese people are super resourceful. And to answer my question to you, that I think a lot of other people had problems with, is what does it mean to be Viet Kieu? I would copy what a lot of the other Viet Kius would say. I think to be Vietnamese, you gotta know how to hustle a bit, right? I mean, I feel like we just got that hustle in us. We have that resourcefulness, and like you know, you leave what you had in a country that you're born in, and now you're hustling in Vietnam. I mean, that's basically what you're doing. You're like, I'm running out of money, but I'm doing what I feel like I gotta do, and just to survive and hustle and make it work. And, you know, it seems like you're kind of embracing both cultures, right? That kind of Vietnamese YOLO, and then the Australian, like, all right, I gotta do what I learned, and make it work out for me.
No, exactly that. And one of the things that when you're traveling around here, you see the locals, and like the locals are the most badass hustlers. They're the OG of hustlers. Man. They it's incredible, and that inspires me. Like, of course, you know, like poverty is still like a big and main issue in Vietnam, but you see people just hustling, like, and then it makes you very grateful, but it also inspires you. Like, they are the OG hustlers, and it makes me hustle as well, because you see people who are so less off than you are, and they're getting by, but it's real for them every day. And so that's something that I see. Like, I constantly see every single day when I'm out. You see the poverty issue, and like, for me, like, I've stopped a lot of complaining, like, because, man, like, now, like, I know what I have to do, and then, like, I just need to hustle as well, and, like, just see how the locals are hustling, and then, you just gotta do it. But I guess I'll one last item I'll finish off on is and we briefly talked about this, was just like the whole, like, the Asian representation. It's something that like, growing up, like, you and same in America and me in Australia, it's just seeing it's just like whitewashed everywhere. But now, like, slowly, like, we're getting in there, and it's one of the things I want to do on my YouTube channel is be someone like they can represent, but just increasing their Asian representation, but not just increasing just for the sake of it, but just doing some good, and just just being someone that can be respectable, but also doing things on my own way, but just lifting, just the Asian representation, just not being another number, but just doing things my way. I have my own identity, but doing things the way I want to do it, but then just having more Asian representation, so people can, some people also eventually other kids can look up, look at you and then say, hey, you know, that's something that I want to be like, you know, on, say, on my YouTube channel, like I want to make content where it inspires other people. And just so someone to see that, you know, like there's another Asian out there doing something he loves. He's making, you know, fun, funny content, whatever it may be, entertaining. But then just something that be relatable, and then they hopefully just put out a positive message, and then it inspires other people that you're not alone. You know, you're like you're not. There are other people who like. That's what, like, I like to make this kind of content on my channel so people can to know that they're not alone. That like the other people have struggled as well coming up. And especially in this digital age where, and especially as your kids, man, like kids are fucking brutal. And when we're kids, man, like, you know, kids are savage, man. It's like, and also because back then, a lot of kids, they don't know what they're doing, and they've been like, unfortunately, some people have been influenced from the parents in a negative way, and that, as a kid, you're very susceptible to be molded in a certain way, and that's it's, you know, you have bullying, racism. It's so much harder, more harsher as a kid as well, and that's and so just I'm happy to have this interview with you to help you on your work, and just raise the level of Asian representation, and like what are your thoughts on that? Like we're seeing so much more coming up, and I love it. So
I appreciate what you're doing. I mean it's true, you know. I think when you're in your 30s, I'm also in my 30s. I think that when we were kids and growing up, you know, K-pop wasn't that big, and being Asian wasn't cool. I remember like just bringing food to school and being embarrassed about bringing food to school, and people saying all that smells, and then now everyone's like, oh man, pho. I love pho. Oh no, it's not pho, dude. It's pho. Oh, pho. Oh, I love pho. You know, and all of a sudden, it's cool to do that, and even with like meditation, and people are, you know, I could just think about this in LA. I don't know if you know Thai Thich Nhat Hanh, and he's huge now, and especially among LA folks. And when I was growing up, being Vietnamese was like you're the like home invasion robber, or that was like the news on TV. And nowadays when I say like, oh, I'm from Vietnam, and people are like, namaste. You know, like, I'm like, man, all right. If all of a sudden I have game, and you know, I have traction, and it's cool to be Asian, and it's you know, the culture aside, you know, you named being a human, and I think that just relating to people, either one-on-one or as a group. I think people are just trying to survive. People are just doing their thing, and trying to blend in, and you don't think that they're blending in, or trying to figure out who the hell that they are, and they don't know who the hell that they are. And you know, I think that everyone is struggling to struggle and figure shit out. And I appreciate that you're highlighting that. You know, that's great. And I look forward to, I've already subscribed to your channel. I look forward to the other work that you put out there, man. I appreciate you, and everyone else who's doing great stuff too.
It's awesome, man. It's awesome. It should all just be about human beings, and like, we all have our individual struggles, but we're all human beings at the end of the day on this planet. We have a short amount of time to make our mark, and so we should just like more and more, like, as I say, more kindness, more love, but just trying to understand each other.
Absolutely.
Cool, man.
Yeah, great. Thank you for opening up and sharing your experience. I look forward to the other content that you create.
For sure. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for the talk today. It was really cool, man. It was like these things, like it's, I wouldn't say it's difficult for me anymore, but like every time like once I start opening up, of course, like, you know, you have flashbacks, some of the memories, like, you know, of racist times and whatnot. But it needs to be like one of the things I love about YouTube is that we can put this content out, and you in your work as well, and it just so people can read, people can watch, and people can know that like other people have gone through this, and that's so important that people can understand that that other people have struggled as well, and they're not alone in their struggles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's vital. That is vital. Yeah,
because I wish we had content like this when we were growing up. You know, that would have helped a lot. So it would.
Yeah, I will keep you updated on my research and my findings. And you are my 19th person. Thank you. You're almost,
awesome.
You're my 19th person that I've interviewed within these past few weeks. And
awesome.
I will share with you what I have and what I will be continuing on and writing on.
That's so cool, man. All the best.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I realized that I was like, I've seen this guy before. Like I was like, I've seen this guy before, and I was like, he's that swole ass fucking dude on all those Viet Kieus in Saigon pictures. And I was like,
no, I'm not.
Right? I mean, that's you.
No, that's the other Asian.
Oh yeah, you all look the same. That's right.
Yeah, that's the other Asian. That's not me.
I was like, dang, this is fucking swole ass motherfucker on Viet Kieus in Saigon every time. I'm like, it's Willis. Cool. I like this guy.
Man, we're all just trying to make our own mark in the world. I keep saying I talk about so maybe this is probably just like outside the interview, but I love Joe Rogan. You know Joe Rogan?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh my god, he's helped me so much in my life. Like him, and so Joe DMT Rogan, of course. But you know, it's a.
Have you ever tried Deems at all?
No, I wasn't able to get my hands on that, but it's something that I really want to do. But I'm all about like self-awareness, spending time with yourself, all inner work, and having all the out of body experiences. So I'm into I'm into that. And hence why I was talking about just being a human being, and just we just have such a short amount of time on this planet, man, and it's trying to make the most of it. So that's what I'm all about these days. And I try not to get too many things to get me down, because you have trolls, all this, in the whole scheme of things, it doesn't matter, man. We have such a short amount of time, and hence why I quit my job amid Vietnam, because I knew that I didn't want to do something I hated for the rest of my life. It's just stuff like that, man. But and Joe's helped me so much, and so I'm all about that.
Man, I mean, I think that you're right. We're all in it, and whether it's good or bad, we're in it together. And just to see the positive side, I can see that you're a positivist, and I like that, man. I like how you're just working it. You got the hustle.
We have to, man. We have to, because especially when the aliens come, we have to band together.
Oh yeah, of course. We got to band together and hug all the aliens, man. We got to hug the aliens, man.
No, but what if they don't want to hug us? What if they want to enslave us and mine gold from them?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the hugs, though. I'm gonna see. So one of them is gonna hug us, and if there's one, I'm gonna hug them all.
Well, you just better hope that that's all they want is a hug. Okay, but I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic about. I'm gonna watch you first. I'm gonna I'm like stream it to me, and then I'll make my decision.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, oh fuck, Dan got fucked. Yeah, I'm not hugging that one.
Yeah. Please, they got him. They got Dan. Shit.
I guess that's not the way to go.
Oh no, but hey, you volunteered first, so I'm happy to watch your I'm happy to watch your contribution to humankind, and I'll make my decision pending what happens to you.
I hope that someone erects a statue of me for being the first one to hug the alien.
Oh man, hey, that's someone to be remembered.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm gonna make my mark right there. Which just make sure that my pose is real good, right? That gets my best side and everything.
Hey, it's all about legacy, and your kids will be one day, hey, that's my daddy. You know, it's all about legacy. So
Yeah.
I'm all about legacy.
The alien hugger. Yeah, that's my legacy. Oh man.
Oh, man. No, it's been awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you as well. I'm gonna send you this this video once I upload it, and I'll send you the link.
Awesome, man. And you're cool for me just to edit this and put onto my channel?
Yes, of course, of course.
Oh,
Of course.
awesome. Thank you.
Yes. Take care of
this
yourself,
will be so
Willis.
much. Thank
Yeah.
you. You too.
Yeah. Have a good rest of your day.
Awesome, man. You too. Take care. All the
All right,
best.
take care. All right, peace.
See ya.